Good morning. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann, and today I wanted to do a brief non-bookish update about sort of one of my other hobbies that I care very deeply about. So I am a volunteer for an organization called the American Friends Service Committee, which is, or AFSC, which is a Quaker organization dedicated to peace building and justice work around the world. And AFSC received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1948 as a result of their work after World War II in Europe in rebuilding communities that had been devastated by the war. And so as a Nobel laureate, AFSC is allowed every year to make an official nomination to the committee in Oslo. For consideration of the actual Nobel Peace Prize. And so I serve on the committee that gets to make that selection every year. And this past year, I was the co-clerk, which in Quaker speak means essentially like the co-chairman. There were two of us leading the committee. And we recently were able to go public with our AFSC official nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize, which is a joint nomination of two organizations, the British-based organization Campaign Against Arms Trade, and then an organization based in Yemen called Muwatana for Human Rights. And so I just wanted to, I'm spreading it through my personal and social networks and through Quaker networks, and we're figuring out other ways to publicize it beyond the press release. Because regardless of whether our organizations, either the two of them jointly or one of them, catches the eye of the committee in Oslo and actually gives them the prize, which I hope will happen, but they get hundreds of nominations every year. And so we want to use still just the fact that these organizations have been nominated by AFSC, which has a lot of credibility and respect in kind of the peace building and justice and international relations community. So we're trying to kind of publicize it as widely as we can to bring more attention to these two organizations. And so since I've put a lot of work into that over the past year, and I really, really like these two organizations and the work that they do. So I wanted to just briefly mention it on my booktube for my small community of people here. So Campaign Against the Arms Trade, I mentioned that they are a British-led organization, and they focus on trying to dismantle the international arms trade. So they do some direct action, especially pre-COVID. They would actually mobilize folks at international arms fairs to hold, nonviolent direct action protests at these big international arms fairs where people are selling arms. Not just like your regular sort of little gun sale, but like, governments selling arms to be used in conflict. So they would try to disrupt those events. And then they also have a real focus on kind of legal and political change. And so just recently they were successful in getting the British government to briefly stop selling arms to Saudi Arabia. The British government was able to overturn that and resume arms trades to Saudi Arabia. And so Campaign Against Arms Trade is currently in the middle of appealing that decision by the British government. And so that was one reason we wanted to nominate them, was because of the timeliness of that nomination, that seeing, having that organization nominated for the Peace Prize could place additional international pressure on the UK government to stop those arms sales to Saudi Arabia. And I should maybe back up a second, because Saudi Arabia is one of the major players in the continuation of the conflict in Yemen, that the conflict that's been going on for several years now and is just resulting in mass humanitarian crises for civilians all around the country. So we were really moved by Campaign Against Arms Trade's work, but that is a white organization operating predominantly from a Western European base, and we wanted to really lift up some local peace builders whose stories and work might not be receiving as much international attention. And so with the timeliness of the Yemeni conflict and the immense pressure to try to get that done, we found an organization in Yemen, Muwatana for Human Rights, which actually collaborates with Campaign Against Arms Trade. And so they are doing incredible work, basically bearing witness to the conflict in Yemen. So they have a large team of folks on the ground who will go into areas of recent conflict, areas of recent strikes, and they will gather the stories of the people that were involved in that local military action. And so they humanize the conflict by publishing those stories. And then they also have evidence gathering teams who will sort through all of the shrapnel and debris, and find things like the serial numbers of the weapons that were used. So they're providing that direct evidence link to show to the UK government, to the US government, and to other governments around the world that, like, these weapons that you're providing are the ones that are causing mass civilian death in our country. Um, so they're the group that's doing kind of the real dangerous work of putting their lives at risk, to be in those areas doing that, like, very essential evidence gathering and bearing witness to the conflict. And so that's why we nominated them as a joint nomination to acknowledge that essential on the ground work, and then also the work that's happening at the levels of international policy and international government. And another piece that makes this timely, after we'd decided on our nomination and were formalizing it, of course, when Biden became president and started to take some action on our own arms trade with Saudi Arabia. So that's somewhat promising. So anyway, so now it's in the hands of the people in Oslo, and who knows if our nomination will get chosen. I'm hopeful, because the Yemeni conflict, or I should say the conflict in Yemen, is such a big deal and such a humanitarian disaster, that hopefully the Oslo Nobel Committee will be persuaded by the arguments that we submitted in our materials, to select those two organizations, or at the very least one of them. But anyway, I'm trying to publicize it. So now my small booktube community maybe knows about this. So thank you for watching. If you watched this, if you have any questions, like especially if you're Quaker and want to know more about the process that this group goes through, we are essentially tasked with representing all Quakers, because that's the language of the prize that AFSC received in 1948. And it's very hard to figure out how to represent all Quakers around the world. So we're constantly trying to do that better and improve our processes. So especially if you're Quaker and want to really have a conversation about this, I would really love to. I think the odds of me having a Quaker among my followers are pretty low. Summer, if you're reading this, Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats, I actually haven't asked you yet if you're actually Quaker, or if that name of your channel has some other reference in it. But anyway, thanks for watching and listening. If you did, I hope you all find ways to support peace and justice in your daily lives in whatever ways you can, and support some of these larger organizations that are doing the work at really broad scales. I'll check back in soon with a bookish video. Thanks. Bye.